I should have walked away. I should have closed the door the moment Ethan stepped closer to me. I should have remembered the wedding band on my finger and the vows I made in front of God and my family. But that night, in the soft glow of the gym's empty hallway, I felt his breath brush against my cheek, and my whole body trembled in a way I had not felt in years. His hand slid around my waist, slow and intentional, and I did not stop him. When his lips almost touched mine, my heart pounded so hard that it drowned out every warning inside me. I tasted desire before I even kissed him. I felt the danger before I even let him pull me against his chest. And when I finally gave in, when I finally allowed that moment to happen, everything I loved began to slip away from me. My marriage. My peace. My identity. All of it cracked in one reckless moment that tasted sweet, felt intoxicating, and destroyed the woman I thought I was. Before I continue with this story, I want to appreciate all my subscribers. I am very grateful for your love, your engagement, and the strength you continue to give this channel. To all my returning viewers and my new audience who are yet to subscribe, I want to say a big thank you for being here. I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button because it is the fuel and the energy that keeps powering this channel. Make sure you engage and share your thoughts in the comments. Now, let me take you into my world. My name is Alyssa Carter. I am a 34-year-old American white woman living in suburban Georgia, in a quiet neighborhood filled with trimmed lawns, slow evenings, and families who wave politely but do not know each other's secrets. My husband, Mark Carter, is a 37-year-old civil engineer. He is the kind of man who notices small things. The kind of man who fixes loose cabinet handles before they fall. The kind of man who remembers the dates of doctor appointments, oil changes, and anniversaries without using a reminder on his phone. He is steady, grounded, and devoted. He is also the man I betrayed. I met Ethan Walker at the gym I had recently joined. He was the new fitness coach, the one women whispered about when he walked past. He was tall, athletic, tattooed, and carried a sense of playful danger that made the room feel smaller whenever he entered it. He was the opposite of Mark in every way. Where Mark was calm, Ethan was thrilling. Where Mark was predictable, Ethan was wild. And where Mark was gentle, Ethan was bold. I did not join the gym because I wanted trouble. I joined because Mark and I had been drifting apart for almost a year. We barely spoke unless it was necessary. Our intimacy had fallen to a cold, quiet routine. Our nights ended with him on his side of the bed and me on mine. I felt invisible in my own home, and I hated myself for wanting more attention than I was receiving. Ethan noticed me on my second day at the gym. He smiled at me in a way that felt like a secret. He complimented the shape of my back muscles. He positioned my hands during a weightlifting session and let his fingers linger on my skin a little longer than they should have. And he looked at me as if he knew exactly how lonely I felt inside. At first, I resisted. I avoided eye contact. I kept sessions short and distant. But the more Mark withdrew at home, the more Ethan stepped in with warmth, encouragement, and attention. It felt harmless at first. A flirty comment here. A playful joke there. A smile that lasted a second too long. Then the smiles grew into moments. The moments grew into tension. The tension grew into temptation. And on the night everything changed, I had stayed after a late class to stretch my muscles. The gym was quiet. The lights were dim. The sound of soft music echoed from the speakers. Ethan walked in and locked the door behind him because he said he needed to close the place for the night. But when he walked toward me, I knew that he did not lock it for security. He locked it for privacy. He stood in front of me, close enough to feel the heat of his chest. His hand moved to my waist. I felt my pulse in my throat. He whispered, "You deserve to feel wanted." That sentence broke me. Not because he said it, but because I believed him. Because I had forgotten what it felt like to be desired. Because I had been starving for affection and attention, and Ethan sensed it like a wolf senses weakness. When his lips brushed against mine, I did not step back. I stepped closer. My fingers touched his jaw. His hands moved down my back. My heart raced with a dangerous blend of fear and excitement. And before I could stop myself, I kissed him. The room spun. My mind drowned in heat and adrenaline. I felt his hands gripping my hips. I felt his breath against my neck. I felt myself melting into something I knew was wrong but felt too powerful to resist. The moment was raw, intense, and charged with a kind of passion that blinded me to everything else. When it ended, I felt a rush of guilt so heavy that I could barely breathe. I pushed away from him. He smiled as if he had won something. And I realized that I had just lost something far more valuable. I drove home in silence, gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my fingers ached. My heart felt numb and bruised. I walked into the house and found Mark in the living room, asleep on the couch with the television still glowing. He looked peaceful. He looked loyal. He looked like a man who trusted me blindly. My stomach twisted. I wanted to confess everything right there, but the words died inside me. I kissed his forehead gently. He stirred and opened his eyes. "You are home early," he said softly. I swallowed hard. "Yes. The class finished early." He nodded and closed his eyes again. Something in his expression changed for just a moment. Something cautious. Something observant. Something in him sensed a shift. And he was right. The next morning, he studied my face a little longer than usual. His eyes lingered on me as if he was searching for something. My guilt grew heavier, my body colder, and my heart more restless. Because deep down, I knew that this was only the beginning of the storm I had brought into my own home. And the worst part was that Ethan was not done with me. Not even close. The morning after that night with Ethan felt like walking through a fog made of guilt. Every sound felt louder. Every movement felt suspicious. Every breath felt like a reminder of what I had done. My mind was not quiet for a single second. The memory of Ethan's hands on my waist lingered like a stain that refused to wash away. I hated myself for letting it happen. I hated myself for wanting it. But most of all, I hated that a part of me still felt drawn to him, even after I saw my husband's peaceful face sleeping on the couch. Mark observed me closely that morning. He asked simple questions, but his eyes searched deeper. "Are you feeling all right, Alyssa?" he asked while buttering his toast. "Yes, I am fine," I replied quickly, maybe too quickly. He nodded, but I could see that his instincts had begun to awaken. Mark had always been perceptive. He could sense shifts in the energy between us long before I acknowledged them myself. He watched the way I avoided his eyes. He noticed how I fumbled with the coffee mug. He noticed how distant my mind felt. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I prayed silently that it was a spam message. But when I checked, my heart dropped straight into my stomach. It was Ethan. I cannot stop thinking about last night. I slid the phone face down on the counter. Mark glanced at me, just long enough for my pulse to spike. I forced a smile and walked away before he questioned me. The next few days were torture. Ethan texted constantly. At first, the messages were seductive, filled with compliments and reminders of that moment we shared. But when I ignored them, the tone changed. His messages became frequent, demanding, and almost taunting. "Why are you acting like nothing happened? You wanted me. I felt it. You owe me a response." I blocked his number. I deleted his messages. I tried to erase him from my thoughts. But I still saw him at the gym. And every time I did, his eyes told me clearly that he was not planning to disappear quietly. One evening, after a long day of avoiding him, I walked out of the gym and found him leaning against my car, waiting for me. My stomach tightened painfully. He smiled, but there was something dark behind his eyes. "You have been ignoring me." I kept my voice steady. "Ethan, I made a mistake. I cannot continue this. I am married. I love my husband. That night should not have happened. He stepped closer. You did not seem to think it was a mistake when you wrapped your arms around me. I stepped back, trying to catch my breath. Please do not twist this. I am asking you to respect my boundary. He scoffed. There is no boundary between us, Alyssa. You crossed it. Not me. His confidence frightened me more than his words. I got into my car, locked the door, and drove off before he pushed further. When I got home, Mark greeted me at the door. He had prepared dinner, something he used to do often but recently stopped because of his work schedule. He smiled gently and kissed my cheek. The tenderness of that gesture sliced through me like a blade. During dinner, he asked, "How is the gym going?" My fork paused midair. "It is fine. Same as usual." He nodded slowly. "You seem a little distant lately." I swallowed hard. "I am just tired." He reached across the table and touched my hand. "I love you, Alyssa. You know that, right?" That sentence broke something inside me. I nodded because my voice refused to come out. For a moment, it felt like maybe I could rebuild everything slowly. Maybe I could outrun the consequences. Maybe I could bury that night so deeply that it would never surface again. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, my world collapsed. It happened on a Saturday afternoon. Mark and I were cleaning the garage together. The sun was shining. Music was playing through a small speaker. Everything felt almost normal. Almost peaceful. Then my phone vibrated inside my pocket again. I grabbed it without thinking. It was another message from a new number. I opened it. And I froze. "If you keep pretending I did not happen, I will tell your husband everything." Mark saw the blood drain from my face. He walked over slowly. "Alyssa, who is that?" he asked. I tried to hide the phone, but his hand moved faster. He took it gently but firmly from my grip. Mark read the message. Silence fell so heavy that it felt like the air left the room. He read it again. Then again. His eyes grew darker with each second. "Alyssa," he said, his voice shaking, "what is this?" My chest tightened. My legs trembled. "Mark, please, let me explain." His breath grew uneven. "Explain what?" "Explain who is threatening to tell me everything? Explain what you have been hiding from me?" Tears filled my eyes. "Mark, I made a terrible mistake. A moment of weakness. I am so sorry. I did not mean to hurt you." He stepped back, as if my words were poison. "Who is he?" Mark demanded. "How far did it go?" I sobbed uncontrollably. It was one night. Just one night. I swear on my life that it never went further. He closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, I saw a kind of heartbreak that shook me to my core. This was not anger alone. This was betrayal. Deep. Piercing. Shattering. "You kissed another man," he whispered. "You touched him. You let him touch you." I nodded slowly, my entire body trembling. He placed his hands on his head and paced across the garage. "How could you do this? How could you choose a stranger over me? After everything we built? After everything we survived?" I was lonely, I cried. I felt neglected. I felt invisible. I was weak. "And you did not talk to me about it," he said. "You chose him instead." He walked toward the door, grabbed his keys, and headed out of the garage. "Mark, please do not leave," I cried. He looked at me with a shattered expression. "I cannot stay here right now. I cannot breathe in this house knowing what you did." And then he left. The sound of his car driving away echoed across the driveway like thunder rolling through an empty valley. My knees buckled beneath me. I fell onto the cold concrete and cried until my throat felt raw. I had broken the one man who had never broken me. I had shattered the trust of the man who loved me the most. And I knew, deep down, that Ethan was not finished with me. Not even now. Not even after destroying everything. The silence inside our house felt heavier than the walls. After Mark drove away, the air seemed colder, the rooms darker, and every minute longer than the last. I walked into our bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wedding photo on the nightstand. There we were, smiling, glowing, filled with hope. Two people who believed they could conquer anything together. I pressed the photo against my chest and sobbed until my tears soaked the frame. For the first time, I understood what true loneliness felt like. I had pushed away the one person who stood by me through storms, disappointments, and years of life's unpredictable challenges. Now he was gone because of one reckless night that never should have happened. Hours passed before I could gather myself enough to think clearly. My phone continued to vibrate, but I could not bring myself to check it. I already knew who it was. When I finally looked, I saw more messages from Ethan. "You should not have ignored me, Alyssa. Now he knows. You brought this on yourself. Maybe you need someone who actually appreciates you." My heart pounded with anger. A fire I had not felt before surged through my chest. I typed back quickly. "Stay away from me. Forever." His reply came seconds later. "You will come back. You always do." That sentence made something inside me snap. I grabbed my keys and drove straight to the gym where I knew he would still be working. I felt my pulse pounding as I marched through the doors and saw him leaning against the wall with that arrogant smirk on his face. He lifted an eyebrow. "You missed me already?" I stopped in front of him, my voice shaking with fury. "You ruined my marriage." He laughed softly. "I did not ruin anything, Alyssa. You did that. You threatened me," I said. "You crossed a line." He shrugged. "You crossed the line first. You kissed me. You came to me. Do not pretend you were some helpless victim." I felt sick to my stomach. "I regret everything." He studied me with cold eyes. "No, you do not. You regret getting caught." I stepped back, feeling a sudden wave of disgust for him and for the version of myself who ever let him into my life. "This ends here," I said. "Do not contact me again. Do not show up anywhere near me. Do not try to speak to me." He chuckled again, shaking his head. "You think Mark is going to forgive you? You think he is going to hold you again? You think he will ever trust you? You already lost him, Alyssa. You might as well accept that I am the only person who understands you now." Something inside me hardened at that moment. His words did not tempt me. They freed me. I saw him clearly for the first time. Manipulative. Reckless. Selfish. Dangerous. He was the fire that burned me, but I was the one who poured gasoline. "I do not need your understanding," I said firmly. "And I will never come near you again." I walked out before he could respond. I blocked him again, this time with a sense of finality. I stood outside in the cold air and breathed deeply, feeling both shaky and relieved. I knew I had to face the real battle next. I had to face Mark. I had to fight for him. Even if he did not want me anymore. Mark did not come home that night. Or the next. I slept in our bed alone, surrounded by memories that felt like needles against my skin. Every creak in the house reminded me of him. Every empty chair reminded me of his absence. On the third day, I decided I could not wait any longer. I went to his mother's house, where I suspected he might be, because it was the one place he always went whenever he needed space or comfort. When his mother opened the door, she did not smile. She looked at me with disappointment in her eyes. "Alyssa," she said quietly. "He is here." My chest tightened. "May I speak with him?" She hesitated, then nodded. "He is in the guest room." I walked down the hallway with shaking hands. Every step felt like walking toward judgment. When I reached the room, I knocked gently. "Mark, it is me." There was silence for a long moment. Then the door opened slightly. He looked exhausted. His eyes were red. His beard looked untrimmed. His shoulders were tense. "What do you want, Alyssa?" he asked, his voice flat. I swallowed hard. "I want to fix this. I want to fix us." He shook his head. "You cannot fix what you broke." "Mark, please," I whispered. "Let me explain." He opened the door wider and gestured inside. "Then talk." I stepped in and sat on the edge of the bed while he leaned against the dresser, arms crossed. "I was lonely," I said. "I felt disconnected from you, and instead of telling you, I let someone else fill that space. It was one night. It was weakness. It was selfish. It was wrong. I hate myself for it." He stared at me with pain in his eyes. "Why did you not tell me you felt lonely? Why did you not talk to me?" "I was afraid you would think I was complaining," I said. "You were stressed from work. I did not want to add to your burden. And instead of leaning into our marriage, I ran away from my feelings." He ran a hand over his face. "I trusted you with everything inside me." I broke into silent tears. "I know. And I destroyed that trust. But I am begging for a chance to rebuild it." Mark sat down across from me, but he kept his distance. "Do you still have feelings for him?" "No," I said immediately. "None. I ended everything. I confronted him. I blocked him. I told him to stay away." Mark lowered his head and breathed deeply. "I need time, Alyssa. I need space. I am not ready to come home yet." The words stung, but I accepted them. "Take all the time you need. I will wait. I will do anything to earn your trust again." We spoke a little longer, and although his heart was still shattered, something softened in his eyes before I left. There was still hope. The following weeks were a slow journey of rebuilding. Mark and I met twice a week for coffee. At first, the conversations were awkward, filled with long pauses and forced politeness. But gradually, we began to open up. We attended couples counseling. We talked about our distance. We talked about our fears. We talked about the emotional cracks that both of us had ignored for too long. One afternoon, while sitting in the counselor's office, Mark reached for my hand for the first time in weeks. He held it gently, as if testing whether it still belonged to him. I whispered, "I miss you." He squeezed my hand. "I miss you too." A wave of relief flooded me. That small gesture felt like a door opening. As weeks turned into months, the pain began to soften. The conversations became deeper. Mark slowly moved back home. Our nights were filled with long talks, healing tears, and slow, intentional intimacy. We rediscovered each other piece by piece. Not the way we were before, but the way two people become after surviving something life-altering. Then, one evening, Mark took my face in his hands and said, "I forgive you." Tears overflowed instantly. "Thank you, Mark. Thank you." He kissed me with a tenderness that felt like redemption. For the first time in a long time, I felt safe in his arms again. The betrayal did not disappear, but forgiveness covered it with new hope. Mark and I rebuilt our marriage with honesty, vulnerability, and a commitment that felt stronger than before. Looking back now, I realize that forgiveness is not weakness. It is strength. It is choosing love over revenge. It is choosing healing over pride. It is choosing the future over the past. And in the end, forgiveness saved us.